Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. We are on the heels now, in the wake of the release of the FISA memo, the 4-page document that was supposed to be so shocking and revolutionary and, against national security that everybody was against it. The FBI, all the Democrats, and it's been released, and I read it. 4 pages, took me about, 4 minutes, 3 minutes maybe, and I didn't see anything that was upending national security. I saw a lot of stuff that certainly impugned the investigative techniques, if you will, of the FBI. I saw a lot of that. Politico reported this. In a briefing, House Intelligence Committee staff said the memo reveals that the Steele dossier was a factor in the initial October 21st, 2016 warrant to spy on Carter Page and was included in several 90-day renewals as well. 3 of the applications were signed off by Comey, 1 by his long-term deputy Andrew McCabe. See, what they're wanting to do now is give cover by saying, no, they weren't spying on Trump. They were spying on McCabe. And McCabe eventually worked for Trump. Ergo, it was okay to spy on Trump. Now, you might not know this. You might not remember this. But when Carter Page was told, oh, yeah, there were reasons that we were looking at you because you'd visited Russia, he goes, I've never been to Russia. And they go, whoa. And then they said, oh, but wait a minute, you have a Russian wife. And he goes, well, and I'm just trying to go from memory, but it was something either like, no, my wife is Croatian and she's never been to Russia. It was like, ba-bam. I mean, they just slam dunked this idea. Politico goes on to say those applications were also approved by the Justice Department by a succession of top Justice Department officials, once by Sally Yates, an Obama administration holdover who acted as Attorney General until 2017 January. Once Dana Boente, B-O-E-N-T-E, that's a guy, by the way, who succeeded Yates, and once by Rod Rosenstein, who was confirmed by the Deputy Attorney General in March. The memo suggests that the FBI and Justice Department knew that Steele's work had been financed by the DNC and Hillary Clinton's campaign, but didn't disclose the political connection in any of its applications. They also didn't disclose Steele's personal antipathy for Trump, which committee officials said included him telling a top DOJ official that he was desperate that Donald Trump not get elected. Now let me ask you, a guy that tells you, I'm desperate to keep Donald Trump out, and you go, hey, give us that dossier that you've prepared, unbiased, of course, so we can submit it to get an application to go spy on a guy who we say is tangentially connected to the Russians because his wife, his name is Natasha, but neither of those people have ever been to Russia. This is what we're talking about. President Trump called it shameful. That's what it is. Shameful. They also suggested that Steele misled officials about his contacts with the media when he initially reached out to provide the dossier. Now, all I could gather from that, and there are going to be pundits talking about it for the next week, what I gathered from that was that he essentially sold this to the media as official when in fact he was already dismissed from the FBI because they said he was unreliable. So you got the list of people now that we need to go after. And Rosenstein's name had already been floated. But let's talk about Sally Yates. You remember Sally Yates? Former acting Attorney General Sally Yates. She was fired by President Trump. But she had this to say back in December of last year. By the way, she had said she would not execute on Donald Trump's order, the travel order. That was where you maybe remember hearing her name if you don't recall completely. But anyway, they said, back in December, former acting Attorney General Sally Yates implored the public, get this, to embrace American core values of freedom and justice or run the risk of letting an unnamed force at hand potentially ruin what makes America unique. She's talking about this in the context of the travel order. She also called on Washington and the public to remember the lessons of Watergate and honor the rule of law. Here's what she says. Over the course of our nation's history, we have faced inflection points, times when we had to decide who we are as a country and what we stand for. It reminds me of Obama saying, that's just not who we are. Or what did he say? Something like that, right? That's not what we are. Now in such a time, she says, beyond policy disagreements and partisan gamesmanship, there is something much more fundamental hanging in the balance. Will we remain faithful to our country's core values? She wrote that in an op-ed in December of last year. Got fired in January. Now, it sounded rather Comey-esque to me because Comey's been coming out with all these flowery little things like, stand tall, FBI people. You're going to come under attack. You think Comey knew what was happening? You think somebody maybe leaked the memo to Comey to say, holy cow, dude, what did you do to us, boy? Yates is eventually going to get prosecuted. Rosenstein, look, I don't care about optics. I don't think Donald Trump does either. I would call a press conference and say, what we need to do, taxpayers, is we need to take the bill for everybody who was investigating this witch hunt on me, and we need to you should issue a class action lawsuit against every Democrat, anybody who's been for this, and they should have to pay back the taxpayers. That's number one. Number two, Mueller needs to shut this witch hunt, snipe hunt of an investigation, finger quotes used, down. And then Sessions needs to start a special counsel to investigate every clown in the circus that you've just witnessed over the last year and a half. That's what needs to happen. I'd love to see President Trump come out with something like that. Because America waits to hear the sound of those prison bars clank close behind all these different criminals. That's what they are. They are criminals. And to Sally Yates, McCabe, Comey, they're the beginning of this conspiracy, folks. They're not the main people. They're not the major players. The major players in this conspiracy are Hillary Clinton, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and Barack Obama, and that entire team. That's who's complicit. Man, I can't wait. This is only beginning. Like I said earlier, we waited for this document to fall. We already knew what was going to happen. We knew, that the left is, I said before, this document didn't do anything except it validated what we already know. Well, good. Now we know. And the Democrats have already issued, you don't understand all the underlying reasons. Oh, yeah, we do. We've got plenty. It was said in testimony by McCabe, this dossier was a chief reason we started this investigation. And this dossier is junk. It is toilet paper. We'll be back.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.